What's up, everybody? It's episode 162 of the Designated Players Podcast. It is an emergency podcast. Why? Because Lionel Messi has just officially signed for Inter Miami in MLS. We're here to break it all down for you, the details of the move, our thoughts, and how it's going to impact MLS moving forward. It's me, it's Connor. We're back again. Buckle up and get ready for another emotion-filled episode because this one is going to be filled with it all. How you doing, buddy? You ready for this?
I've been ready for this since the day Inter Miami was born.
Lifelong Inter Miami fan.
Why isn't Adam on here? Adam is our resident Inter Miami fan.
No, he isn't. He's our resident plastic water bottle. Doodle support any team that he's close to. It's an emergency podcast, but that doesn't mean we break tradition. It's Scarf of the Week time. I can only imagine which one you're rocking.
Oh, really? Can you?
Yeah.
Surprise. Miami. Wow.
Hey. Yep. Okay, cool. We got that out of the way.
How much do you think this scarf is worth now? Can I sell this?
Oh, man. We could probably resell it for, considering tickets went up 100 or 1,000%, I think it was. We could probably sell this on for at least 500% more.
Yeah. I think I might do it.
You can't do that. You're trying to build a wall like I am.
I don't have walls.
What?
I just don't have them.
Shut up. Leo Messi has just signed for Inter Miami Club de Football. Here is everything you need to know about the move. First, Messi signs on a free transfer at the end of his PSG contract. Second, Messi signed a contract that is reported at about or over $100 million, including a percentage of Apple TV profits that they earn after he moves to the league, a share in Adidas profits from the jerseys that they will sell with his name on it. Likely the biggest salary in the league. I can't imagine that he's getting paid less than Shaqiri.
Could you imagine?
He's rumored to be linking up with former Argentine and Barcelona coach Tata Martino as Inter seek him out to replace Phil Neville. And it is rumored that his first game might be later next month during the Nations League against Cruz Azul. That's basically everything that I've pulled from it. I don't know if you've seen anything else.
I saw something, and I don't have the source right now, where he was rumored to potentially have or potentially get a franchise similar to Beckham. I don't know how true that is, though.
That's right. That's the last thing I didn't add. The last part of that is that there is a clause in that contract that says he can become a part owner of a franchise once he retires or moves on. So similar to the Beckham deal, but the argument is that there will be if expansion in MLS has ended, he will be able to jump onto an ownership team, whether it be Inter Miami. I don't know if it's Inter Miami or any team that he wants. That hasn't been worked out, but there is a clause in there, good catch, that allows him to get a piece of a team once he's done, which is massive because the value of the teams continue to rise, which means he's going to make tons of money well into the future of what we're doing.
Yep.
So the first thing I want to talk about, the first question I want to ask you, he chose MLS and Inter Miami over a boatload of money, rumored $1 billion in Saudi Arabia, and a return to his boyhood club in Barcelona. Why?
I guess we could start with one location at a time.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia, I think, was offering him like $1 billion over 2 years or something like that. Something absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I'm sure, $1 billion is hard for anybody to turn down, but considering Messi probably has endless money for multiple generations of his family, I don't know how much $1 billion, like, I don't think $1 billion is the same to him as $1 billion would be to like us. Like, obviously $1 billion to us would be insane. And $1 billion is still $1 billion, you know what I'm saying? But he has so much money already. So maybe that wasn't as big of a pull as like the number itself maybe makes it seem. And then it's the fact that you have to go likely live in Saudi Arabia if you're going to play there, which I don't know anything about it, but I don't want to make this like too political, but there's plenty of news and stuff out there about stuff associated with Saudi Arabia that maybe does or does not care about, but um, might sway him to not want to live there. I mean, it didn't
Tiptoeing
sway
that line
Ronaldo.
really close.
It didn't sway Ronaldo. So, um,
Yeah, that's fair.
and to the point that you were talking about before the episode started, in terms of him mentioning that he kind of wanted to get out of the spotlight a bit more. If he goes to Saudi Arabia, the spotlight doesn't change. It's probably even more on him now because you have Messi versus Ronaldo part two. It hasn't been the same since the two of them left La Liga. Both of them going to Saudi Arabia would basically just revive that rivalry again. Then you have Barcelona, UEFA Lona, whatever, who just, and I think I remember seeing the statement from Messi, and that his statement had to do with him not wanting to repeat the same mess that happened when he left the first time, because the club is just run like garbage. And I honestly don't blame him for not wanting to go back there to deal with something like that. And again, spotlight thing. Obviously, if he goes back to Barcelona, the spotlight is as big as ever on him. And I think he kind of gets away with a little bit less spotlight coming to Miami. Obviously, he's still the best player in the world. The spotlight is going to be massive on him, even in Miami. But the sport's not as big here. There's more of a chance that he can kind of, walk around down the street without every single person knowing who he is. I think that could be a nice relief for him.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that, mainly because you stole half of it from me before we started recording.
You shouldn't have said something.
Yeah, I shouldn't have. I should have left
And
you
then
a
you
little
asked
dark.
me, you should have said it. You should have said it first. You gave me the question.
So for me, a lot goes into it. First, I think a new adventure, as you mentioned, or as we mentioned, he didn't want to be in the spotlight. He wanted to focus more on his family, things like that, which is totally fair. When you are the best player in the world for the last 20 years, give or take, you are constantly the person people are looking at. People are trying to figure out, what are you doing? Why are you not making my team good? Why are you making my team bad? Blah, 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 right? He wants somewhere where he can go, and the expectations are a little bit lower, which is totally fair. I don't think anybody, supporter of MLS or not, is going to sit there and say going to Inter Miami and trying to get them over to the playoff line is a way bigger and more important thing than trying to make Europa Lona a reliable team again, or trying to win the Messi versus Ronaldo 2.0. So a different sort of venture, trying to figure out how to play to a good level with players who are definitely not at his level, right? Been there, done that with Europa Lona, going back to a team. And to be fair, that Barcelona team, not at the level that he left it at, right? I mean, you left the likes of Prime Busquets, Xavi and Iniesta were in there, David Villa, Pedro, all these players, and now you're playing with the next group of them, and it's just different. He'd have to reacclimate it. It's a different game. Saudi Arabia, he made it clear that he wasn't even thinking about it, and as you mentioned, money's not an object for him. And if it was, he would have gone there. He wanted to try something new. There are a lot of other reasons. I think that he chose to be here. I think it works with a couple of factors. Firstly, that ability to be a part owner of a team in a league that constantly is growing in terms of team value was a game changer, I think, for me, if I were in that spot, because that closed system prevents you from taking a gamble. It's just basically saying, here you go, it's going to get better. There's money, you leave whenever you want. That's how you get it. Also, the fact that he can live in Miami, right? You talked about living in Saudi Arabia or Barcelona, where you're going to be walking down the street and everybody's going to want pictures and autographs and things like that. Miami, you'll probably get that, but not nearly to the level of where you would be anywhere else. And he's already got a home there, from my understanding. So he's been there. He likes the area. His family likes the area. It makes sense. Also, we've got the 2025 Copa America. We've got the World Cup in 26. I mean, Argentina's coming to play here consistently, unless the world blows up and they don't qualify for some reason.
That's not
But
too fetched right now with things going on.
tell me about it. But yeah, it's, there's a lot happening here. The sport's growing. It makes sense. There were also rumors that Inter Miami are looking to get Busquets and Di Maria as well. So that could have played into it, saying, "Hey, let's go all play for David Beckham's team for whatever amount of money we're already rolling in it. Let's just go play and see what we can do in a different league." Um, that's also one thing that goes into it. I think obviously Saudi Arabia, the Messi versus Ronaldo 2.0. I don't think he wanted to be a part of that. He's ready to, kind of leave it behind, move on, and do something for himself. But Barcelona, I was reading an Athletic article that was really interesting that they waited too long to do it, and that's when you mentioned that when he comes back, he didn't want to go. The way that he left a sour taste in his mouth. He didn't want to do it again. So I didn't realize any of this. I was just looking it up now, but when Barcelona told him he had to leave for PSG, it was literally last minute. They were telling him, "You're good, you're good, you're good. Don't worry about it." And then like the last day, like, "Oh yeah, by the way, you got to go." And he didn't want to do that again because it seems like they were trying to sell enough players to get it done. So the rumor has it that they were going to pay him 25 mil a year, meaning that they needed to cut 70 mil in salaries based off of all of those things that they did last year in terms of, money saving tactics or whatever, when they were like $100 million in debt or whatever, whatever that whole thing was. It meant they needed to cut 70 mil to sign him. And it was taking too long to do that. And Messi didn't want to wait. So that also paid into it too, where Saudi Arabia was off the table. He wanted to go to Barcelona, but they were waiting too long, waiting too long, waiting too long. He had to make a decision. Inter Miami is right next door. Let's do it. So I think that all kind of weighs into it.
Yep, definitely.
So my question for you, it's a question or a comment that keeps floating around.
Uh-huh.
Retirement signing?
There are a few players where no matter how old they are, you can get away with the signing not being a retirement signing. It is a very few crop of players. And Messi is absolutely one of those players. I don't care if Messi's 45 and I don't care if he's 80 and in a wheelchair. If you bring him to the league, that is massive, and it is not a retirement signing. Now, with that being said, all the moves that Saudi Arabia are rumored to be making this summer, those are retirement signings. I don't think Ronaldo is a retirement signing, by the way. I think he is in that same class as Messi. Mm-hmm. But Messi coming to MLS, especially at, what is he, 35 now? He's still got years. He is the best player in the history of the sport. At 35 years old, he will be more than fine.
Correct. Yeah. And Tom Bogert, Tommy Scoops, for those of you who know him closely like I do.
Time for them to learn. That's our Fabrizio.
There we go. Yeah. Fabrizio said, "Here we go," but Tommy Scoops said confirmed. And that's when you knew it was no, he put out a good point. Somebody was like, "Why would you be hyped? He's, basically already retired." The dude won a World Cup 6 months ago.
And he balled out.
I would say, and he was one of the best players in that Argentinian team, let alone the fact that he was one of 2 players in the entire top 5, the 5 leagues that everybody praises. He was one of 2 players to have 15 and 15 in that for an underperforming PSG team, by the way. So the fact that people are thinking like, "Oh, he's washed," he's not washed. He's got tons of stuff left in his legs. But here's the deal. He's winding down. He wants to move here so that when he is done, he moves on to life after soccer. Like, he's using his brain to realize, do I want to go live in Saudi Arabia and then when I'm done have to live in Saudi Arabia or move again across continents? No. He's happy in Miami. His family loves Miami. It's a great place to be. He's got friends there. Beckham's going to be over there. He's got tons of connections to be there. And it's not about, and he made it clear, it's not about money either, right? If he wanted to do a retirement thing, get paid to do nothing, go to Barcelona, who said, we will pay you, but we don't know if we can register you and let you play. If you were going to retire somewhere, why not get 25 mil a year to literally sit on the bench for a year because they can't register? Like, that is a no-brainer. So he said no to that. I want to still play, which is great. Here's my last point. Retirement signing or not, don't give a damn. Don't care. As you mentioned, there are players who transcend this idea of retirement signing, right? Andrea Pirlo, awful. Retirement signing. Come in, walk around the middle of the pitch, score 1 goal in 4 years or whatever he did, and make his entire team's midfield useless. Messi could do that same thing if he really wanted to. And he'd still be the best, most impactful signing this league's ever seen. People were comparing it to Tom Brady signing for the Israeli Football League in his prime. Now, I think that's a bit of a stretch. However, it's the fair statement, right? This is the biggest signing in American sports history. Period. I'd like to, if you disagree, let me know.
I don't disagree, but I think that's because there is a larger worldwide market for the sport than there is with other sports. So it's kind of a tough comparison.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. But yeah, listen, they can call it whatever they want. He wanted to go down to a place where he could have a life after playing. He wanted to go to a place where he can try something new with minimal risk or exposure. It's no secret that MLS media is way more relaxed on the performance of the superstars in the league than they would be anywhere else. So even if he's getting paid all this money and whatever, I don't think that he'll have the media pressure he did anywhere else. Again, things that are appealing to people like this. Now, good or bad, that's a different argument. Should press be more hard? Maybe. But that's not the argument we're having. We're talking about why he came here and if it was a retirement signing. And it could be, right? But I don't care. Because at the end of the day, we've got I will label it as one of the top 5 players in the history of the game playing here for 2 years, raising awareness, raising money being thrown at the league, as is evident by the first ticket price that I looked at was New York Red Bulls versus Inter Miami in 2 months, 2.5, 3 months. That went from $40 a ticket to $500 a ticket. And that's just in Red Bull Arena. Imagine all these other places that are going to start selling them. I mean, we're massively increasing our profits. It's only good for the league. I don't want to say there's nothing bad, but I can't think of anything that's super bad right now.
Nah, me neither. Even if he sleepwalks on the field, even if he doesn't play a single minute, it's good. Jersey sales, Apple TV subscriptions, ticket prices, everything is just immediately going to blow up.
Correct. And that actually drags me to the next point is, what were your initial reactions when you heard it happen? What was like your first thought?
It just feels like it's kind of been in the works for a while. And I guess my first thought there seemed to be good competition to get his signing during this season. I really don't think the impact has truly hit me yet. I think I kind of will start to feel that once I actually see him start playing and once we start to see some numbers. Not that I don't doubt his impact, it just hasn't really hit me. But yeah, I think he's going to come in. I think he's going to be a star. I think it's going to be a great situation for him where, like you said, the pressure is just not going to be what it is in other countries like Saudi Arabia or Spain. I think the press are going to there's probably going to be some press that are going to be hard on him, but I think overall it's going to be really good situation for him and for the league. I was thrilled that we were kind of ahead of the curve in terms of being an MLS fan, and now we get to watch all these other people come in and enjoy the league that we love so much.
And you know what? We're here with open arms. We don't gatekeep. We don't tell people, "Oh, you weren't here before Messi. You don't get to be here now that Messi's here." Right? This is the whole point of bringing him here. We want people to come and join and be a part of this because, as we mentioned, Apple TV is a global subscription. Anybody in the world can buy it. which means that there are going to be tons of people who want to follow Messi. Messi is their player that are going to buy this. If we, let's say hypothetically, 10 million people do that in the 2 years that he's here, you keep 10% of that, that's a million people who are now supporting the league and working in this and you know, supporting and staying with their team. That's the word I'm looking for. So that sort of stuff is what this is about. It's not about can you take Miami to the Champions League final and win the Club World Cup. It's not about that. It's about so much more than. So my reaction was, I don't care what he does on the field. And I've made this clear through Twitter over the last couple of hours. I don't care what he does on the field. He could, as we mentioned, walk around, play 4 minutes a game for 1 game a month for 2 years. Don't care. Because what he does for this league will not be remembered for what he does on the pitch. 10 years from now, just like David Beckham, we're not going to talk about, remember when David Beckham made LA Galaxy really good? We don't. We talk about, remember when David Beckham made the changes to the league that got it to where it is today? 10 years from now, that's the conversation we're having about this sign. Everywhere he goes, this is what you see. Insane impact on viewership. Every club he goes to gains millions of followers on social media. Millions. I think PSG lost in like the 2 hours after he, agreed to leave. They lost like 1.5 million followers in 2 hours because he's gone. TV ratings are going to soar. And as we mentioned, worldwide subscription, meaning millions of eyes all over the league each week. And you don't need to keep them all. You're not going to keep them all. But if you can keep enough of them, that's what this is about. Apple's going to make money. They're not going to pull out of the deal that everybody keeps getting freaked out about. Profile of the league grows. You start attracting people who are like, oh, Messi went there and I watched a couple of his games and it's not as bad as I thought. Maybe I can go play there too. Right? It's a ripple effect. It's not a right away type of thing. So we have the potential here to gain a lot of worldwide viewership and popularity. Not on the Premier League scale, because that's you're never going to be big as Man City. You're never going to be as big as Barcelona. Yeah, we know. But that's not the point. That's not what we're trying to do. But if we can keep enough people around, it grows and creates this. I'm trying to think of the right word. Grows and creates like this permanent, semi-permanent thing where people can grow all over the world, not just here in the United States, right? If you ask anybody in the country what the name of their local MLS team, USL team is, 90% of them won't even know. But if you ask who Lionel Messi is, instantly it's, he's the GOAT, or he's the best player. He's Barcelona's favorite player. He's at PSG. I had when I was in Kentucky, one of my teams, the first thing I asked was, okay, who watches soccer? And nobody raised their hand really. Okay, you guys all have numbers. What I want you to do is go home and tell me who somebody who wore your jersey. And the first person goes up and goes, I wear number 10. I already know who it is. It's Leo Messi. She starts listing all of these stats. She's 12 years old. Had no idea that there was a pro team coming to Lexington, but knew everything about Lionel Messi. That's the impact that we're talking about. People will watch him when he's here. Now, that means MLS has 2 years to make it so that they can hold on to any Messi fanboys that they can. So I ask you, does this make any massive changes right now?
In terms of just like viewership?
No. Rules, regulations, rosters, things like that.
I want to say yes, but I know that that's probably not the case. Oh, also, I did want to tack on one thing. So I just pulled up to your point about PSG and like Messi's impact and how he said he was going to leave and then they lost a ton of followers. So I pulled up Social Blade so I can track what Inter Miami's Instagram followers look like.
Nice.
Any guesses on how many followers they've gained today?
So I actually tweeted that out. Nobody's given me the starting number, but I think today, they're close to on all of them, or just like Instagram or Twitter?
Just Instagram.
Instagram. I thought it was close to like 500, 600K.
Try 1.6 million followers today. Just today, 1.6 million followers gained.
The Messi impact, baby.
It's outrageous. That's insane.
Yeah.
So yes, I think fan wise, he will absolutely have an impact. I think tons of more people are going to be interested in this league. Tons of more people are going to buy Apple TV subscriptions. I think attendance league wide is going to go up. This is going to get people in America interested. People in America don't know the sport, but they know who Messi is. And they're going to be like, oh, I know who that Messi guy is. Oh, he's coming to play in America. Oh, maybe I should like take a closer look into what this MLS is looking like. In terms of rule changes in the league, I mean, I would love to think that he creates some roster flexibility. Maybe he does. I don't think it's going to happen right now, though. I think it'll probably be a bit more time. But I would love for him to come in and they finally give teams a bit more money to spend on the entirety of the roster rather than just grabbing a couple top heavy players and then the rest of the team is just homegrowns.
My that comment that you had was exactly where I was going to go with this. Is we have talked about it for years now that the person that we're trying to get into this league is not the Euro snob who only watches Barcelona, Man City, and PSG. It's the person who is a kid playing soccer who knows the 4 or 5 big players that needs to now understand that there's stuff that you can watch here. Those people who are like, yeah, I know who Messi is, but I didn't know that I had a local team here, are going to be like, their kids are going to be like, I want to watch Messi play. So they're going to get Apple TV. They're going to start watching it. I'm like, you know what? This isn't half bad. I can get behind this. And that's what's going to drive your support. We've talked about it on our MLS history series, right? The majority of fans are around because of one crazy game. So many people were in the Reddit mentions talking about their favorite thing, the thing that kept them around the longest was when David Beckham, who was being thrown out there like a king in his first year, was getting beat by the Chicago Fire. All the Fire fans were living for it. And that is what kept them around because everybody was talking Beckham, Beckham, Beckham. Well, they had Blanco, and Blanco was better than Beckham that day. And that gave them pride to say, yeah, you've got the big guy, but our team can do it too. That's what we're looking for. We're not looking for, oh man, everybody's going to be a Miami fan for 2 years and then bounce. We're looking for people like, oh, Messi's playing. Let me, oh, there's this team that's right, within an hour or two from me. Let me watch them play. Because again, I can almost promise you 90% of Inter Miami games free this year. There's no shot that they're gonna do any sort of paywall to keep him away from people. But that means that you're going to be able to watch your local team play one of the best players in the world. You watch that. First of all, they do really well. That's one thing. But you think about games like the LA Galaxy Red Bull game from 07, 08, when Red Bull beat Galaxy 5-4 and everybody's losing their minds with Beckham's first game in MLS, right? Something like that happens, instant fan retention. That's the stuff we're looking for. We're not looking for a massive influx of Inter Miami fans. We're looking for a massive influx of the people who are like, yeah, I know a little bit about soccer. I want to get behind something. Because at the end of the day, once Messi leaves, ticket prices go back to normal. Or even when Messi leaves, like your city, ticket prices go back to normal, which means you can now look at it and say, I can spend $400 to go to an MLB game, which has 4 hits a game, or I can spend it, half of that price, go to my MLS team and support that team. It makes it a viable option if you are starting to watch and you need something to watch to get started. Messi is that something to me.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. I mean,
On
sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. I don't have anything to say.
Oh no, I was gonna just finish up because I didn't really talk about the roster stuff. And what I was gonna say is I don't think we're accelerating it. Like I don't think we're gonna jump and instantly Messi came in. Now everybody can go spend whatever they want because that's how the NASL failed. Pele came in and everybody saw what Pele did. So they're like, okay, everybody go buy big name players. So they bought a bunch of people. The hype lasted for like a year, and then they were sitting on $10 million. That's an exaggeration, of course, but sitting on all this debt they couldn't pay off, and they just folded. So I don't think we're accelerating it out. However, we are giving ourselves a platform to not shy away from it when we're ready to make that decision. So if we can retain those fans long term and show that the investment is there, then we can be confident that the rule changes won't mean doom like the NASL was. We can be confident that if we jump it from, I think it's going to be 13 million roster spend to 25, that people aren't going to go lose their minds and put themselves in a ton of debt, right? So that's where I think this is going. I don't think it happens in 2 years. I think it happens in 4. So that's just where I went with that. Now, that being said, there's this rumor of Di Maria and Busquets getting here, and they've already got 2 designated players, well, 3 now with Messi, and they've lost all that gam and tam from the, the punishment from the roster problems. I don't see any way that happens. So maybe Messi is like, hey, let my friends come. And then Don Garber is like, yes, sir. And he just changes all the rules. I don't think it'll happen, but that's the only way I see that going.
I mean, I hope so, but I hope it's the real roster. And I don't want to dive too much into this, but the real roster changes that I would like to see is more depth to the roster rather than just we're going to open up more spots, more designated player spots, so you can bring in more top heavy players.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest one is that you're really looking at where you're spending it. Again, we won't dive super far into it, but if you can take the 13 mil plus whatever your DPs are and just say, hey, you got 25 mil, spend it wherever you want. Make a top 11 that's great with no subs. Make 18 really good players and 5 or 6 reserves, whatever you want to do, just go for it. That makes things a bit different. But anyways, I want to shift from MLS specific to United States specific. Messi goes here for 2 years. We've got the Leagues Cup kicking off, Copa America in 25, World Cup in 26. Argentina is now looking to build a training facility in Miami because Messi's there. What's this all mean? Like, where is this taking United States soccer for the next 5-6 years?
Like the men's national team, or
just soccer in the country?
I think this is as crucial a time period for U.S. soccer in every aspect of the game, men's, women's, everything, as there can be. This next, I guess, 3 to 4 years is going to be monumental for the sport here. Messi has just joined your local league, your domestic league, which is huge. It's massive. Then Copa America being played in the US is also super massive, especially for getting fans in South America to get a bit more interested in MLS. And they can start now to kind of get familiar with the league and familiar with places in the US by following Messi. And then you bring it all home with the World Cup here, where eyes across the entire world are going to be on I'll say North America because it's Canada, Mexico, and the US, where that is where I think you can capitalize the most on just the sport in general rather than MLS, where now so many eyes from even within the US it's going to be unavoidable for them to see the sport, see it on ESPN, see it in advertising all over, on the radio, billboards, whatever. It's going to be everywhere. And I think the U.S. Soccer Federation has to do everything in their power to capitalize on this to the maximum because you're not getting another 3 years like this ever to capitalize on growing the sport here, in my opinion.
That's perfectly put. The Copa America is biggest for me. So in 2021, I think it had a little bit of COVID to stamp it down. They only averaged 279 fans a match. So I won't focus on that. 2019 in Brazil, 33,356 on average per match. 2015 in Chile, 25,227 per match. 2016 in America, 46,000 per match. Actually, 46,500. So you're talking about massive increase in fans watching these games, right? So you have to capitalize on making it really big. Obviously, Messi is massive. The World Cup is the biggest tournament in the world, regardless of sport. That is going to be there as well. As you mentioned, the perfect time to get this done. with all this stuff happening, you've got youth players involved at an all-time high, right? These players are connected to their teams locally, whether it be MLS, USL, NISA academies. They're connected with teams abroad by supporting Manchester United, supporting Bundesliga teams like Bayern Munich, or supporting the biggest club in Europe, Everton Football Club. But you have this, the love of the game is there. That's not a question. I think a lot of people will use the America isn't ready for blah blah blah, whether it be pro rel, whether it be money expansion, whether it be whatever. America's not ready because they don't love the game. Not true. They are connected now, but it's new. So you really need to stamp home that this game is the game to love, because they've got other choices. But with all of these big events happening, the country's favorite player ever coming to the league, most of them at least, you've got the Ronaldo debate as well. You give them a reason to go to the game or watch the game on TV. The Leagues Cup will get the Latin American population involved. Copa America is a place to see your national team compete against other South American talents. World Cup, everybody knows about how big that is. Soccer has been creeping up in America as a popular sport. Went to 5th, then it went to 4th, and we're kind of teetering in that 4th. By 2027, with a good World Cup performance, a good Copa America performance, Messi doing Messi things, League Cup getting everybody in the southern, around the Mexican border involved, you could jump to 3rd or even 2nd in terms of the most popular sport if they get it right. There's so much potential here. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yep. Do you have any more questions on your list?
I don't. I was going to actually send it your way.
So I'll go with one question and then we can kind of wrap it up. But before I go into the question, and and I don't want this to spiral into a whole separate, sub tangent, but I'm so glad that Apple TV is the one that's going to be able to benefit from this, as opposed to ESPN Plus. I'm so glad ESPN Plus is getting screwed on this, because they just didn't deserve that. ESPN Plus is garbage for us.
You can see how salty they are too by the way that they're tweeting this news. They're tweeting and posting the news like Messi makes his move and probably his final ever stop in Miami in MLS, like insinuating he's just coming here to retire. It's like, bro, we get it. You missed out on this because you didn't care about us in the first place. If there's one person that we are gatekeeping this league from, it's ESPN, damn it. You are not allowed.
Absolutely. 100%.
Was that your question?
No.
Oh, okay.
My question for you, and I think you kind of alluded to your answer already prior, but Beckham versus Messi, which move was more important to MLS?
That's a tough question because one of them hasn't actually happened yet. That being said, Messi. So Beckham was a top 20 player, I think. I don't know. Again, he was massive when I was 5. I don't know. I could go back and there are arguments, whatever. What I do know is Messi is massive now, and he's not top 20 massive. He is top 2 massive, maybe top 1 massive. It's a no-brainer, right? And that's not to discredit anything that David did. David, as we mentioned, is the reason we are where we are today. Messi in 10 years is going to be the reason where we get to. And that is what's important to remember. So I won't say which one is better until they're both done, but I have a feeling in 2033 this conversation is a lot easier. That's what I'll say.
Good cop out. That's the answer with no answer. I'll go with the hot take on this one. I think Beckham's move is more important. I think Messi's move is bigger right now, and I think it has the potential to be more important, especially if he can get the league to change roster rules and get them to be more flexible. I think that would be a massive win for this league, because I think it'll grow even more exponentially if that's the case. But considering the status of the league when Beckham joined versus where MLS is now when Messi is joining, I feel like you alluded to it in the past, but Wasn't there like potential that the whole league could fold prior to Beckham joining? Like, weren't there major potential issues with the league?
To my understanding, and I need to reread the book, in 2001, the league folded for like 5 days. Everybody just walked away and said, this isn't worth it. And I think it was the two main guys, the AEG group and one other. I got to reread the book, who basically brought everybody back to the table and said, listen, we'll pick up the last, 20% or whatever it is and help you guys out. Stick around. And this is where our plan is going, and saved it from folding. So, yeah, it had very, very high potential of dropping in.
Right. If Messi doesn't join MLS today, the league is still growing. Granted, it will grow at a much slower pace. The league is still in good shape, and it's not, I mean, knock on wood, it's not going to fold. I think Beckham honestly potentially saved the league and put us in a position where we could even get Messi in the future. Not to mention, it's Beckham's franchise that brought Messi here. I don't know if Messi would come here if Beckham was not an owner of Miami. There's still a chance, obviously, but I think the chance decreases. So Beckham joining the league and doing everything he did in terms of changing rules, helping to grow the game, keeping it alive, and then bringing in a franchise that is so attractive that it brings in the arguably the greatest player in the history of the sport to the country, who now could potentially get a franchise in the future, and then just do the whole process again. Beckham attracted Messi to MLS. Who knows who Messi could attract to MLS if he has a franchise in the future? But to me, it all kickstarted with Beckham coming over, which I think was just massive. It didn't work out this way, but it kind of reminded me of when Amari Stoudemire came to the Knicks. He was the first big name player to make a move to New York. Nobody else wanted to touch the franchise because they were such a disorganized mess. And after he came over, then it was like, okay, now maybe this is a place that we should consider. So I think right now Beckham's is more important, but I think Messi's has the potential to be more important.
It's a really interesting conversation, and one that, as I mentioned, we can't really have until it's over. But I think you're right. I think the impact of the risk versus reward of the Beckham deal is it way, 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 way outweighs the risk reward of not bringing Messi in. Messi goes to Saudi Arabia, we go on. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing happens. I mean, something happens. We continue to go at our pace, and that's fine. However, I think what this does, and I talked about it a little bit before, but just the money he's going to bring in, right? From ticket sales, from jersey sales. I mean, it's millions and millions and millions of dollars. And because we're that single entity, because it's not all going right back to Inter Miami, because all of the teams pitched in to bring him here, you would assume, and we all know Daddy Don is somebody that you never want to assume things about. However, if we were to assume that because everybody pitched in, everybody's going to get a cut of what just happened, we're now putting ourselves a little bit more, we're getting ourselves a little bit more of a buffer between the risk of doing something versus the I'm trying to think of the right words here. This is how you know this is a non-planned on the spot emergency pod, because we do not have everything spot on. Like the risk versus lack of reward of doing something and having it fail versus needing to keep things a little bit closer so that we can continue to go on. All that money coming from Messi will allow us more flexibility. I think that's the way I want to put that. Where if Messi brings in $30 billion, again, hyperbole, but he brings in $30 billion and $1 billion goes to every club, now they have $1 billion to say, okay, I can go sign one more big designated player and get away with it. I can go, or MLS as a whole can say, hey, we're not going to give you all that money, but what we're going to do is we're going to raise the spending in the salary cap to $25-30 million. And we will pay for everybody except your 3 designated players. Go fill out the middle of your roster with this much money now. Now they can say that, and teams can take a flyer on a you know, 27, 28-year-old South American who's deciding between Europe and us and say, hey, we've got the money to do it. Let's see if we can get you over here. That's what this is about. This isn't about Messi making the league more competitive. It's about Messi for 2 years giving us enough capital to say we can now take a risk. And that's what I think people aren't recognizing, at least in my opinion. I might be wrong. You're more than happy to tell me I'm wrong. Not Connor, of course, just our listeners. Connor can't tell me I'm wrong. But you could think that this is exactly, it's only brought in so Inter Miami can win cups or the owners can just get richer or blah, blah. I don't care. Because the way I see it is this move is a business strategic move to allow us to make decisions in the future. But that's just me.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I think he will exponentially increase the growth of this league. And I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you don't have any questions, I want to end with just kind of one little statement.
Sure.
I want to say that if you're a Saudi Arabia fan or like a supporter of a team there, and you're in all of our mentions, like talking about how, Messi's finished and this, that, and the other, that's probably fair. You can be tight about it because he turned down $1 billion not to play in your poverty league. Like, I'm sorry. If you're a Barca fan and you're upset because your favorite player didn't come home because you guys are in financial ruin and can't figure it out, also fair. Probably not fair to be mad at Messi. Be mad more at like your owners, but you can still be upset. If you're an American soccer fan who's sitting there saying, I'm not going to watch this guy play in MLS. The league still sucks and it's a retirement signing and blah, 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 blah. I feel bad for you. I genuinely feel bad for you because you're going to sit there and actively miss out on being able to watch one of the top 5 players in history play in your local domestic league. And you're going to sit there and say, no, I'm not going to watch because I don't, MLS is bad. It's not European quality. Just so you can sit on a pedestal and claim that you're better than watching MLS. I feel bad. Like, I genuinely feel bad. There are people, I see it on Twitter all day today. Instead of, being excited or being like, oh man, I can't wait to see what he does, they're trying to find ways that this is a bad move. They're trying to find ways that it's illegal and they shouldn't have signed it. Anybody with half a brain cell knows that this isn't just for the league, but the future of the game in the country. I've read a really great athletic article that was like, when Pele came here, he inspired the first group of the 1990 World Cup team. When Beckham came here, he inspired the players who are there today. Right? This isn't just about 2 years of Messi and MLS. It's about generations moving forward. If you're hoping that this whole thing fails just so you can say, ha, 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 MLS failed again, like, you're part of the problem. Like, you're part of the reason why the game won't grow here. If you're going to sit there and just say, oh, you're never going to be as good as Erling Haaland in Man City, yeah, you're right, but that's not the point of this. And you're the problem. Like, you're the reason why the game won't grow. That is what I take from this. And I again, people can be mad at me. I don't care. But that's what I'm taking from this, is the fact that there are going to be people there who are actively looking to make this a bad thing for the country, for the league, or sit there and try and just be better than everybody else. I just feel bad for them.
Well said, my friend.
Thanks. All right. That is our emergency podcast. We recorded it literally an hour before it got posted. So we aren't going to edit this. I'm hoping Connor's not going to go crazy and try editing this before we go. So lots of non-cuts, lots of things that you probably don't hear in the other episodes, but we needed to get out and talk about this. Make sure you are following us wherever you get your podcast, and make sure you know where we are on social media. We want to interact with you on this type of stuff. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Come find us. Come talk to us. We want to know what you're thinking. Other than that, thanks so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you share our thoughts. Make sure you get yourself on MLS Season Pass so you can see one of the best players in the history of the game play in the greatest league in the world. MLS is clear. Europa Lona in the mud. Saudi fans, boo. Goodbye.